It's clobbering time. Hello everybody, welcome to the Gavin Vita Show, the show where I do the very typical task of telling you whether a movie is worth your time or not and deserves a spot in your movie collection. As always, I'm Ash, and today we're going to be talking about Fantastic Four, so let's begin. This movie does not deserve an opening joke. So Fantastic Four is the fourth attempt at trying to make a good Fantastic Four movie. Same shit here, just it's like, hey, there are four dudes and one chick, and they're like, hey, yay, and they go into a different dimension, and then, oh no, rocks, oh no, fire, oh no, whatever happened to Reed Richards, and they get superpowers, and then Doctor Doom, it's... And look, here's the deal, we are living in a fine age, we are living in the golden age of superhero movies, people. I mean, every superhero movie we get, we hardly ever get bad ones. And even when they're bad, they're not, like, terrible. Like, we got our Iron Man 2s, we got our Iron Man 3s, basically any Iron Man except the first one. We got our Thor the Dark Worlds. We've gotten some that aren't good, but we've all been at this point where we're like, the days of movies like Batman and Robin are over, right? Like, we never get anything atrocious anymore, right? I guess all I can say after seeing this new Fantastic Four reboot is move over, Batman and Robin, because we have a new king of shit. I'm just going to say it right here. This is possibly the worst superhero movie I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you talk Batman and Robin, I own Batman and Robin. At least it's funny. This movie could have had the decency of being so bad it was funny, but it's not. I am telling you, this movie makes the last ones, the Tim Story ones, look like Citizen Kane. It's that bad. I'm telling you, this movie feels like two bad movies were just mashed together to make one terrible train wreck of garbage. And I say that because it reeks, and I mean it reeks, of studio interference. You hear about all the rumors about bad shit happening behind the scenes, and for me, I never buy into that. As I was watching this movie though, it became ever so obvious and clear. That wasn't an exaggeration. Stuff was happening behind the scenes and it affects the movie drastically. I'm telling you, the first act of this movie, it feels boring. Like, it is boring and is void of any fun or charisma at all, but you can see the potential. You can see the potential shining through the cracks in the wall of bullshit. You can see it. And there's some times where you're like, oh, hey, this could lead down a cool path. I'd like to keep going down this path, please. Can we keep going down this path? Oh, maybe that'll be cool. Maybe, oh. And then we get to the ending of this movie where the entire thing falls apart into one of the most rushed and horrendous endings I have ever seen in a movie. Not in a superhero movie, in film in general. That's how bad this movie is breaking Ash records. It is that bad. Not to mention, it feels like they just forgot to put the second act in. Like, a lot of people are like, the first and second acts are good. I'm like, where's the second? I don't see it. To me, this went 1 and then it went straight to 3. It feels like there's a big section of this movie missing. I'm telling you. This is what this movie feels like. It feels like, let's go back to school. Say you have a project, and that project is due tomorrow, and you're putting a lot of effort into that first part of the project, you know? Putting just a ton of effort into it. It's not good, because you're an idiot, you're an imbecile, and you're just failing this class, but you can see the potential shining through. People look at it and they go, well, I see where you were going with this. I can see something there that might make sense. And you're working on that, and then you just pass out. You just fall asleep for the entirety of the second part of that project you were supposed to do. And then when you wake up, you're like, oh my god, it's due in 3 minutes, and you just start rushing to put the final parts together. You're just sitting there, you're just sprinkling fucking glitter everywhere, and then you just go in, you turn it in, you're like, here, this is what I got. And your teacher looks at it, she gazes upon it, and now your teacher doesn't believe in God. This movie is a perfect example of why I don't believe in God. Because if there was a God, tragedies like Fantastic Four wouldn't happen. But they do. So we're alone, and we're all gonna die alone. It's once again, it's that deal. Too many cooks in the kitchen for this one. It shows, because when you have that many hands just going like, oh, but this, but do this, but do this, that's terrible. That's terrible, because it leads to sloppy messes. And this thing is king of sloppy messes right now. And it hurts. It hurts to watch this, because I talked about that potential shining through. That hurt me even more than the badness of the movie hurt me. Because I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking, this should have been awesome. This should have been a phenomenal film on every account. But it's not, because they decided to just screw up every little thing. One of the worst parts of that being the casting, because right now, even after I've seen the movie, I look at this cast and go, yes, of course, these people should all be perfect for their roles. And you know what? I think they are all perfect for their roles, but I think they were given such a terrible, god-awful script with some just terrible, god-awful direction, which led to them just being a joke. It turned these characters and it turned this world into a joke. If you are a die-hard Fantastic Four fan, this movie will offend you. And you know what? Normally I'm the kind of guy who I'm like, calm down, changes happen, don't be offended. For this movie, I'll light your freaking torch. I was offended by this movie because it takes so many giant dumps on the source material. It just turns it into this absolute train wreck. If you are a Fantastic Four fan and you see this movie, I kind of want to give you a hug. I want to give you a hug because that is terrible that this has happened to you. It really feels like they went out of their way to make this movie as bad as possible and ruin what makes the Fantastic Four great. What makes the Fantastic Four great, you ask, Ash? Camaraderie. It is about this team of heroes coming together and being a team. You know, it's about that. It's about them growing together. It's about them getting stronger together. And this movie is rushed so terribly and it is paced so terribly that you get none of that. By the time you get to that final battle scene where they're all supposed to be working together, it feels so out of place. You don't buy it because it's just immediate. It just immediately happens. They're just like, here, there's that camaraderie you wanted, right? Right there, right? And you're like, no! You think that's... Not to mention, the way this movie took on, like, them getting their powers, like, once they all have their powers, it almost treated it like a horror film. In a way, it was like this sci-fi horror film. And I loved that. And I thought that would have been great if they had built on that, because one of those things that an origin story should do is show you how these heroes come to grips with their powers and how they learn to use them. This movie almost did that. It almost did that because it has this scene where they're all using their powers and it is like a monster movie. And it looked like it was going to lead to something awesome. But then they do this stupid thing. They, spoiler alert, take a 1-year time jump. And after that 1 year is over, the Fantastic Four, they know how to use their powers. They basically skipped the one interesting thing they could have put in their stupid movie. This is the one thing they could have done where I would have been like, you know what? The movie was bad, but the fact they treated it like this monster movie where they had to learn how to use their powers and come to grips with it could have been incredible, physically and emotionally. But they skipped that so they can bring the final ending closer. And so they're like, hey, we gotta get to Doctor Doom. Speaking of which, so Doctor Doom. Now, if you know anything about comics whatsoever, you know Doctor Doom is one of the most iconic and incredible comic book villains of all time. Of all time. You read any just giant Marvel crossover ever, Doctor Doom is normally one of those big baddies they're going up against. You play Marvel Ultimate Alliance, he is the big baddie you're going up against. This movie destroys him. They ruin him to a point where I wanted to cry. Like, for one, look at him. Just look what is this? What is this? What is I wanna die. They make him look like this. They give him no development whatsoever. He's in the movie for like 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes! And then they take him out easier than Goku took out Frieza in Resurrection F. Like, it takes maybe 5 minutes to that was 5 minutes he's on screen. After it, he's done. He's done easily. It is offensive what they did to this character. They made one of the most iconic characters in all of comic book lore into one of the worst on-screen villains I have ever seen in my life. This movie just did everything wrong. It did everything wrong. Like, for what? I haven't even brought up the visual effects yet. Guess what? Those are awful. They look like something out of a 90s Schwarzenegger movie, but worse. Like, worse. They have no character development whatsoever while they butcher every single character. These characters should have been great, because they have incredible actors behind them, but the way they were treated in this movie made them look like they were a joke. They looked awful, they looked terrible. It was abysmal. It is abysmal what they did to these characters. Not to mention, this story is a joke. It's a joke, because they miss spots. I'm telling you, there's a section of this movie missing. There's got to be a section of this movie missing. I'm sure if that section was there, it wouldn't make the movie better, but it would at least be there. It would at least be there. There are scenes in the trailer. This thing pulled in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Remember when we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, we were waiting for all those great scenes in the trailer, and then they didn't happen? This movie does that too. That shot of the thing coming out, and he lands on the thing, and Miles Teller's like, he's there, and then everyone's like, oh wow, and he blows it and looks like, Not in the movie. That scene, my favorite shot in the trailer, is the one scene where the Human Torch, he grabs onto that one dead guy and he just ignites. That one shot showed so much emotion and passion in just one shot. It got me emotionally attached in one frame, guys. And it's not in the movie. This movie, it went out of its way to be a train wreck. So in the end, Fantastic Four is a disaster. Is an absolute disaster. It's probably the worst superhero movie I have ever seen. Without a doubt, the worst movie of the summer, and one of the worst movies of the year. I'm shocked at how bad this movie was. It has broken my spirits. This movie broke me more than Transformers 4 broke me. That's saying something. This movie's worse than Transformers 4. Don't see it. If you are a fan of the Fantastic Four, really don't see it because you might jump off a bridge. I'm happy no one went to see this with me. I was trying to get dates to this, like I was texting everyone, just like, will you go, will you go, will you go? I'm happy none of them went with me. Because the only thing worse than sitting through this movie would have been having to watch the people I love sit through this movie. It's that bad. No. Don't buy this movie. I'm not gonna buy this movie. Why would you buy this movie? It'll be a terrible mistake of you to do. I'm broken. I'm done. I'm done. Fantastic Four gets an F out of 10. Hey everybody, thank you so very much for watching my video review for The Reason God Doesn't Exist. I want to hear what you think. Have you seen the movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you going to see it? Are you going to skip it? Whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comment section below because I want to hear them. And as always, guys, if you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button up there so you can stay up to date on all of future uploads, and be sure to hit the share button so you can share the video. I'm broken. Fantastic Four broke me. I want you to do literally anything but see this movie, guys. I want you to do literally anything else. And if you're sitting there and you're like, I need an example of something to do, I have something you can do. You can stay classy.